Hi, I want to talk about stopping codependency in its tracks when it comes to generations of inherited trauma when it comes to this codependency thing. I'm going to use my own life as an example because it's something I've personally been dealing with my 4-year-old. And one day I'm going to have a course specifically for parents of crystalline kids because coming into the planet as a sensitive being is one thing, but also being a mother to then a child who is like explosively, not even an indigo, but like a crystalline child, is quite complicated. And it takes a lot of energetic resources to know that this person who we've brought into the planet like us is supposed to be the way shower for the future of our lineage. And if we're not careful, we can seep our own unresolved conflict into them. So specifically, I'm sure that if you read my book, you know that when it comes to first grade classrooms as a teacher, I couldn't even walk by them. And it took me a long time to understand what that even meant. But my 4-year-old daughter right now is displaying the same energetic constitution that I did at the age of 4. And I'm not going to say that I was easy by any means as a 4-year-old. I saw things most 4-year-olds wouldn't see. My imagination was very oriented to my imaginary friends. On a level of chakra, I was very emotionally overstimulated and did not have any cognitive regularity for that stimulation. So focusing was very hard for me. And I was also the youngest person in my grade, well, close to the youngest person in my grade, which was also not easy for me. So right now, she is demonstrating night terrors like crazy. So thank you in advance for your advice, but I'm on it. So I know that a lot of people are going to say, hey, you know, do this, do that, and gatekeep her in her sleep and things like that. I'm on it. I don't need your advice about it, but I do appreciate it. So actually, the things that I've been doing have been working over the past week, which has been really amazing. But what's true is that my kid at the age of 4 has not slept through an entire night in her life. And for a while, I was literally about to lose my shit, especially because I have an infant who also doesn't sleep through the night. So my consciousness was like, why are you waking me up? And why are you taking up so much emotional space that I can't even focus on all of my other 3 children or myself or my partnership because you have so many needs? And on a level of energy, I understand this deeply, and I want to give her all of the things that she needs because I know that she's a way shower for our future lineage. And my grandmother went to her grave also having extreme night terrors, but we always chalk that up to trauma, right? So we can look at my daughter and go, oh, well, she hasn't experienced trauma. Actually, she co-sleeps, she's extended breastfed, I've always been with her, I've never even left her. There's no trauma going on here, but what's true, what we understand epigenetically is that it's in her cells, right? So those stories reside in her cell bodies, and it's up to us to break them down and create a new imprint in the cells so that she has a new story to live into. So she also is a kid who tells me that she has play dates with my grandmother who she's never met. She also tells me that when she was my grandmother, this is what I did when she was a child, or when I was a child, and that she's the boss, right? This is all well and good and fine. So here's what I want to drive home. I realized in my overwhelm that what's true is actually her energetic constitution has pulled me away from my codependency with my own mother. And as mothers, it's very easy for us to transfer that energy onto our own children, okay? So all of a sudden I realize, okay, I'm no longer dependent on my mother and trying to like emotionally save her and be her person who's gonna like make her better and save her from herself. What I've done is, because I'm distracted by my own child, I've transferred that energy onto her, right? And I realized, and thank God I realized it very quickly, that if I continue to make her emotional world my problem, her emotional world to her is always going to be a problem, and she's always going to need someone to save her from that problem. I understand this because I was that child, hence why I wrote a book called Imperfectly Sane, because I always felt absolutely insane when what I needed was somebody to be like, actually, it's not a problem that you're having an emotional experience. Actually, it's not a problem that you're having a need, right? But it's easy as mothers to give what we got. So I was just actually talking with somebody who said, basically, you know, I would rather be at work than at home with my kid because I'm really good at work. I'm really good at that part, but I'm not so good at mothering specifically a daughter, right? And as daughters of mothers who didn't get mothered, we have to be the way showers, and it's, you know, our ego might be like, oh, this is not fair. Why do I have to be the parent to my mother? But the little children in our parents that didn't get what they needed for whatever reason, our children are going to feel that way about us if we don't resolve, whoa, sorry about that. If we don't resolve the story, right? So this is the thing that triggered me the most to really look at this codependency with my daughter. She got out of the bathtub, her and my infant were like playing, and she was pushing the water. I told her not to push the water. She was gonna make him fall. She did it again. She made him fall. I made her get out of the bathtub. She started crying and she couldn't regulate, and she started like basically begging me. She said, what did I do to you? What did I do to you? Oh my God, right? Like, my story as a child, and my dad laughs about it, but I would always say like, Mommy, what did I do? What did I do? I don't know what I did, right? And I literally cognitively did not understand what I did wrong. And I thought I was wrong and I was bad, and she didn't have the words even to tell me what I did. She would just hit me and be like, well, you should know better. So I realized that this was a teachable moment, not only for my daughter, but for me, right? She did not have the cognitive, even though she can have full-blown amazing conversations in most instances, when she's in a stress response, she freezes and she doesn't have the cognitive ability to understand what she even did. And I can look at her and be like, you should know better, you're 4 years old, blah, 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 but she doesn't, right? And it's up to me to teach her. And it's been up to me to teach myself these things. And weirdly, it's up to me to teach my mother these things. And in mothering her, I get to mother myself, and I get to mother my mother, and I get to mother my grandmother. And that's a beautiful breaking of the chains, right? So I just want to be cautious. I want everybody to be cautious that the way, even in which the person I was just talking to who felt like I gave this kid everything, right? Like, my mother was cold to me. I don't understand how she feels this way about me. Well, what's true is, on a level, is that her kid has access to the emotional intelligence to even be able to say, you don't love me. You're a mother who doesn't love me as much as you love your job, or as much as you love your other kids, or whatever. The person I was just talking to, she didn't even have that subconscious awareness that she was even feeling that way. But it trickled down and actually leveled up, because in her daughter, it is conscious. So that gives her the opportunity to do something with it, knowing that actually in her daughter is aware that she feels unloved by her mother. This person wasn't even aware that she felt that until she sees it reflected in her daughter. And the point to this is, her mother felt exactly the same way about her. Like, I've given you everything, I don't understand. Even though the situations were different, the colors, the expression, everything was different, on a level of motherhood, we all feel like we've given our children more than we got, right? And the residue, the residual thing that's left is what we have unresolved in ourselves, right? So even in my 4-year-old daughter, it brings up a trauma response in me when I feel out of control of her. I feel the same out of control, one, that I felt when I was 4, and 2, that my mother felt about me when she acts up. And that's my job to regulate. One, she's an animal, right? And I don't have to be in control of her. I just have to keep her safe and love her while she individuates and blooms as she is, without trying to change her or mold her into something. I have to protect her from the elements of life and from damaging herself, period. That's my job. I don't have to be in control of her. And if I even try, when it comes to this psychic life, to try to be in control of her emotionality, she's going to feel out of control of her own emotionality. And that right there is where codependency starts. That right there is where I all of a sudden went, oh, I'm no longer codependent with my mother. And my consciousness went, but the pattern's still there. Now I'm so focused on my daughter's emotional life that it's a problem for me. I have to stop that. I had to stop that. First of all, awareness is key, but I had to realize, whoa, you transfer that energy right to this kid, and all of a sudden you're making it a problem that she has emotional irregularity issues. If I make that my problem, she's never going to feel responsible for herself. She's never gonna feel like she can, like she's allowed, like she's a capable, sovereign, individuated being. She's always gonna feel like she needs me, right? And there's the hook, because that's what a codependent wants. I want you to need me. I need you to need me, right? Because I don't know who I am if you don't need me. I have to, even though she's 4 and obviously needs me, on a level of mental patterning, be aware that I need to individuate personally from that pattern so that my daughter doesn't grow up feeling like she needs me across the board for all of her things, and she can't stand on her own without using me as a crutch, because that's where the codependent gets in trouble, when every single thing in our life is a crutch. And then all of a sudden the work, when we get older, the hard ass work, is we have to literally kick away all of those crutches and learn how to walk on our own. And that's not something we were taught that we were even allowed to do, right? And a lot of people go, I have to kick away those crutches by cutting you off and you're toxic. And I personally don't prescribe to that idea, because I think that if we understand on a genetic basis and on a consciousness basis of our cellular bodies, that those stories are in us, whether we like it or not. And to cut those people off is like cutting out an arm or an organ of ourselves, when we could just as easily start to love it and project onto it its own healing. And when we do that, guess what happens? Things heal. But when we go, you're toxic and you're bad and you're wrong, that is like cutting off an arm and going, nope, don't need you. And guess what? The phantom limb always goes, hey, I'm here. And it kind of hurts that you can't use me anymore. So we have to be aware when we are crossing the genetic and the ancestral line and transferring one pattern from one person onto another person. And as benevolent as it might seem, and as much of a level up it is, because we go, oh, well, I'm not codependent on her anymore, and look, I'm showing my daughter a different way, and this is great because I've leveled up. The pattern's still there, right? It's still in me. So awareness is key. So if you are in a position where you have a kid and you're going, whoa, like I feel so out of control of this kid, one, I want you to realize your mother felt exactly that way about you, and probably the age in which that child is creating a trauma response for you because of that. And that we have to be careful not to go, oh, you need me, your emotional life is my problem. First of all, it's not only my responsibility. We go, oh, that's my problem. This is a problem for me. It's a problem for me that you have night terrors, that you're not sleeping through the night, that you're waking me up in the morning. It's a problem for me that you are a problem for me, right? That sets up a whole, especially when our kids are built under the age of 7, a whole life of feeling like they are not okay, they're a problem, their existence is a problem, and that they can't be in the world and be good enough for the world unless they're perfect and wound up tight, and then their emotional life is just totally cut off, and then guess what? They're not even close to being the whole being that they came into the planet as. So if you have a kid who is reflecting the sense for you that, whoa, you might feel like overly responsible or overly a problem, their life is overly a problem for you, we have to be aware that that transference is probably happening from our mothers all the way down through us to them, and that it's up to us to stop that right in its tracks. I hope this was helpful. Bye, guys.